Now loading.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was really impressed with the video essay you sent me that was connecting furniture and fashion, because that's so much of what I've concerned myself with. And I'm sure, as you know, like when you get a random DM that's like in your like, you check it every once in a while, like, all right,
Yeah,
who's someone who doesn't follow me? Then send me a message, and then they send you like, hey, look at this or go look at that. You don't always click it, and then like when you do, you don't always expect to find something you're going to be interested in.
yeah.
But like I was very, very interested and quickly, watched when I had some time, watched your video, and it was super comprehensive. And I thought you just did a really great job at like weaving it all together. It
Appreciate it,
was
man.
really easy to follow. I even sent it to a couple friends.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
Cause I had
and
mentioned your studio in
yeah,
in there as
and a
well.
couple
Yeah,
of my peers too in New York. And yeah, I was just really intrigued and inspired to get to know you more and hit the follow button, and now we're connected. Here we are.
yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's probably one of my favorite video essays that I put together, and I'm just really curious. I've become a lot more curious about definitely furniture design because I feel like Steve Lacy, the Apollo 21 cover by Steve Lacy, when I saw the Werner Panton living tower chair on the cover, I
Hmm.
was like, what is that?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, I was like, what the hell is that? I need that. And then I saw Frank Ocean on the Pierre Poulin Dune sofa. You
Yeah.
know the picture where he's lying down
Hmm.
and then you can see like the shelves in the background. I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell is this? So I
Both
feel
of
like those are the
those.
two people that made me look at furniture design in particular, in a different way. I wasn't just looking at it from a traditional point of view. I wasn't looking at furniture like on its own. I was looking at how furniture plays a role in all of these other industries.
Totally. I think we've seen over the past few years furniture kind of join the other art forms with like the internet wave. Like furniture had its like viral moment, really, in the same way as like SoundCloud rap, or the same way as streetwear, or these different art forms that are part of the culture that are being carried through music and carried through iconic people. And the tip of that spear for me, and in that pop cultural way, is obviously like Virgil is a huge part of that, connecting those points. And then of course before him, Kanye, and him being a part of Kanye's camp, I'm sure
Absolutely.
was a big part of that. But for me, similar, I was, and then on a pop culture, cultural way, like Pharrell had dabbled in furniture.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He had the
Um,
two pieces. Those two
two,
pieces he made.
yeah, in like
Yeah.
2008, around then, which were
Yeah.
really inspiring to me when I was young, because I was into art and beginning to get into design, and seeing that intersection, seeing like a rapper, like a musician, not going to reduce Pharrell to a rapper, seeing a
Yeah.
musician,
He's
an
he's
artist.
so many
Yeah,
things. Right? He produces,
um,
he writes.
totally.
Yeah.
But seeing, such a big figure in hip hop and music, like dabble in furniture, was very eye opening for me in those early years. And then even before that, it's like Nigo,
Yeah,
with
Nego.
streetwear. It was
Yeah.
like a big collector
Yeah.
of furniture.
Yeah.
There's iconic pics of him with the Protone,
Yeah.
um, that like crazy grass chair,
Yeah. Yeah.
by
Yeah. The
Gufram.
green
And
one, right?
then, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he collected a lot of Eames. And of course, Bape had done some collabs with like some Eames shell chairs. But yeah, you know, like they're just there's a history that's just that's there that was kind of like not at the forefront, and I think it's really only in the last like 5 years, especially the last three, that we've seen it really accelerate online,
Absolutely.
TikTok, Instagram,
Absolutely.
and it's become a really big part of it. Where like now, you know, taking a fit pic is a lot cooler if you got like uh,
Some furniture
some
in the
some some
picture.
some sick chairs
Yeah.
behind you, you know,
Yeah.
in the mirror, or like, you know. And I think what that does for design is something really unique and exciting. And I think it's a cool time to be in design in this kind of this new era of like where people care, more people care, and more people are interested.
Yeah.
And you know, it allows you to have a voice and an opinion in pop culture, which wasn't necessarily true, you know, just 5 to 10 years ago, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like there's been a journey. There's been a huge journey, as you said. The likes of Nigo, you got Pharrell, you have Virgil, even Kanye hasn't directly done furniture, but his designs in other spaces have probably influenced the way people are looking at furniture now. Even like the stage design he's done,
Hmm.
things of that nature as
This is
well.
showrooms,
Yeah,
with different Yeezy showrooms, and kind of curating, and his dabbling in architecture.
exactly.
Yeah,
Even like the Yeezus tour for me was like that was groundbreaking for me. Like
groundbreaking.
just the way the stage was set up, the way he really like experimented with like height and platforms and changing the way you look at an artist whilst they're on stage as well. I think yeah,
It was
that whole ecosystem that led to what you're doing now and your contemporaries. You know what you guys are
100%.
doing is all kind of connected now. I think.
I I would I would think so. I mean, I definitely have a lot of respect to that, to the people who laid the foundation to make, you know, what I do possible, and to be for it to be
Heron
under
as well.
yes, for it to be
Yeah,
understood.
yeah,
I always wanted my work to be seen as like a continued evolution from that. Like I didn't want to just be like a furniture designer from the trajectory of just design, but wanted it to be seen in through that filter of like when design intersected with, you know, what some people call the culture, like hip hop and streetwear and street art, and like, you know, what we just talked about, that kind of
yeah,
like that
yeah,
Nigo, Pharrell, Kanye,
yeah,
Ben Trill, Virgil,
yeah, yeah.
SoundCloud, like
Matthew
that
Williams,
that
Heron.
big cultural shift that happened, you know, 2012 to 2016,
Yeah,
that were um, the floodgates got open, you know, for people who look like us in art and design. And, you know, I want to see, you know, Virgil's IKEA collab, like all of those are what allows me to be me and to do what I
absolutely.
do. So a lot of respect for everybody who opened doors and left them open, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, what would you say your connection is with furniture? Like, how do you see furniture as like a muse for your curiosity? Like, how do you view your connection with it with furniture?
I think I think my connection with furniture is just simply a human connection. You know, I think the connection I have is the same that everyone has. Like it's something that we all have experience with and have all used before and all have an opinion about when it comes down to it, you know? Like it's very easy for anyone to sit in a chair and they can tell you if it's comfortable or not, if they like it or not, if they like looking at it. You know, and I think that we're in a time when, you know, most of design's problems as far as furniture is concerned, almost all of them have been solved. You know, there's no shortage of chairs. You know, there's no,
Yeah.
we have more chairs on earth than there are like butts to sit in them, you know? And, so we're not designing chairs to like fulfill some sort of need, which then allows it to become more of an art form, you know? So for me, it's like, I think chairs are just a really great vehicle for self-expression. You know, it speaks to sculpture, design, function. You know, there are many buildings. It's like architecture. It's and then when you can infuse other things like your personal culture, your taste in music, your taste in fashion, and it's just a great medium. Right. And I think it's an exciting medium because it's like it's most in the past has mostly been reserved for, you know, architects and you know, very educated designers. And I think as tools have become easier to use, computer programs, more accessibility to tools has become easier. You know, we're just in that beginning kind of renaissance of chair making and furniture design, and I think that's exciting. So, you Absolutely. Know, I think for me, it's like yeah. I guess I'll just end on that note.
So it's almost like it's a human connection. You've got like a connection, but I like what you said about how creating furniture was more about a need before, but it's kind of evolved from that to now. It's about self-expression, and now it's about an art form. So I think we're seeing that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so many of the chairs that are super collectible, that people appreciate their aesthetic beauty for, you know, they were designed to fulfill a need. You know, there were new factory processes that came about after the World Wars, and you know, and people were like, all right, like how can we make cheap furniture? Like how can we use these tools that bend pipes into bicycles, and how can we use this same tool to make a cheap chair? And just so, you know, then you get your steel conduit furniture. The Eames with plywood chair, you know, came from, you know, experiments. They also had, you know, World War II contracts and making splints, you know,
right.
And experimenting with plywood that allowed them to take that into, they were already dabbling in that before, but it allowed them to apply it to chairs. And, you know, the plywood chair was to reduce costs and fulfill needs and reach more people. And, you know, they were solving problems. And again, you know, we're past that point, you know, and you know, that's kind of started maybe like in the 80s with like a lot of postmodern furniture. But even still, since then, we're still on that. We're still a part of that wave, and I think now we're even more in a place of
Right.
poetry with design.
Right. Because there, so I don't know if you remember the video essay I did, the furniture and fashion connection one. There's a clip that I took from Luther Vandross. I think the song's called "A House Is Not Home," and he's like, a chair is still a chair even when no one's sitting there. So it's almost like you can appreciate what you can appreciate the chair as like a sculpture or as like a piece of art.
But it has a human connection. Like a chair is also a shadow of a person.
Right.
Like when you see a chair just sitting there, it implies a person versus like you're kind of, even if you're just looking at the chair, you're still somewhat, because of its form, it has legs, it has a seat, it has a back, and it has this space for someone to sit. It's still telling the story of a person, even if that person's not there.
Right.
It's not sitting in it, and there's so much poetry in that.
There is. That's why I feel like there's so much complexity when it comes to furniture design. It isn't just one thing. There's so many different ways you can look at it. So I think that's a really interesting point of view. So in terms of studio, your studio, so what generally, how can you describe like the day-to-day happenings of your studio? What things generally happen on like a day-to-day? What's the energy like?
Right now, my studio's the energy is a little static. Just in terms of, so I had my second baby.
Oh, congrats!
Thank you. This past summer, and just in knowing that I was going to be needed at home as much as possible. I'm subletting my studio right now. And been working from home a lot, and a lot of reflection, a lot of figuring out the path forward. My studio functions really more of like an art practice, and it's really on that sort of a pace. And so it's kind of, I'm in this place right now, this moment where the work that I have done has been received well. I've gotten some great press. I've gotten built up a bit of a name where I can, exist amongst other peers in design and have a platform to talk about design and put other people on. But the wanting to do this for a business and do this in a way where I can do it forever is still a bit of like the part to figure out,
Okay.
especially as a father and especially as an adult, so
That's real.
all that being said is I'm trying to right now, figure out and in the process of it, the right path forward that makes the most sense with like the time that I have to give to my practice and, the things that I want to do and what I think I can do best for other people. And so there's a little bit of a pivot, I think I want to do a lot more collaborations and a lot more consulting for bigger companies to access the design community that we have here in New York and navigate this new landscape that intersects, culture and I think I can do a lot of good servicing others, as well as continuing to, design and build my own projects. But
Yeah.
I want to spend less time physically building things and, more time designing and creating experiences for this, new design culture to thrive. And, I think the best way to do that is is by aligning with other like larger brands that want to do that as well, and that's, financially, that's the only way that this can continue to grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I feel like you're in like where Kanye was when he started to branch more into fashion, and there was a stage where he was like doing everything musically as well. He was doing like everything by himself. He was producing everything by himself. And then he started to bring in more producers to collaborate with him. As he was also like getting more into fashion as well. And he was building more of like an ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
around him.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're moving from like doing a lot of things by yourself to like collaborating more and
Mm-hmm.
like building an ecosystem almost.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I think like the business model of like making something yourself and self-funding it and self-producing it and then sharing that online, or then sharing it in hopes to sell it or to already there, like that puts you in a place where your margins are going to be, whatever you're making is going to have to be really expensive to compensate for whatever time and materials you're kind of putting up front. And for me, that's personally where I'm at in life, not the best business model for me to move forward. Not to say that I'm not going to continue to design things and share them. But just more like the pace of things is like letting that be a little slower and fulfilling, finding other ways to expand my goals in design. And, that's, I was doing a live stream podcast last fall that was about design, interviewing designers, much like yourself.
Yeah.
That was going really well. And the company that we were working with had a pivot where they weren't doing live stream anymore. So we're still going to be sharing those episodes online through Pink Essay soon. But, looking for a new partner to continue doing that show.
Was that was on the app that I couldn't access, right?
Oh, Eternal, yeah.
Eternal, yeah. Eternal, yeah. I couldn't access it because I'm in London, so.
Yeah. So, but that went really well. We'll definitely be uploading those videos to YouTube soon. So I'll definitely send that your way when that goes live.
Yeah.
And chopping those up into some reels and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, just workshops, lectures, just other collaborative projects and experiences. I think even just hosting other brands like at my studio and other designers and I think that's a lot of like where my focus is going to be this year versus
nice
product development. And I think that product development is just going to move a little slower, but in a good way, not in like a, it's funny because like we live in a time where things are so fast paced. Like the moment you say out loud, like, I'm going to be taking my time. Like people are almost like, whoa, what's going on? Like you can't, can't drop something every week, like, you know, and you're like, it's like, no, it's actually like a positive thing.
Yeah.
You know, I want to spend time with my family, I want to spend time nurturing my creative self so I can put out the best work, and just trying to find that new pace and get out of the content rat race, you know?
Yeah. And it's kind of like when Kendrick start over the last few years, he started to take a bit more of a break in between albums, and people, the reaction was like, "Whoa, why are you taking so long? We need more albums. We need more albums." But something that Kendrick said to Rick Rubin, which was like, it opened my mind up, because he said that through when you put out albums, you go on tour, you do the whole rollout for an album, life goes so fast that he didn't really have time for himself to like take in the moment and appreciate the moment. So I guess through taking more time between albums now, you still get quality albums, but he has time to actually live life and experience things and take things in.
Totally. And even just having kids now, you know, it's like when I have a project that's going to cause me to spend, you know, hours in the studio, you know, 40 hours, 50 hours in the studio, even 25 hours in the studio versus being at home, or versus, you know, doing something else for my family. It's like, it really has to weigh a lot to beat spending that time with my family.
To take you away
you know
from
what I mean?
like your base.
Yeah, you know, and so just being more selective and more careful, and wanting to, you know, pick the right path. I'm just in a space, in between space. I think when I started creating my chair and creating, you know, the projects that I've done in the past 3 years, I was trying to manifest this landscape that didn't exist. You know, I was like, there's going to be a time when everyone gets it, like with cultures intersecting, design's going to have its moment. And now it's like 3 years past, and we're in that moment now. So I don't need to manifest that moment anymore, you know? So now it's like, all right, well, what's the next thing? Where how do we push this even deeper and even further? And I think that is going to be done in different ways than just by making one-off designs that I think are cool. And while I want to continue to do that, you know, I think there's just way more space in the education space, way more space in the curating space, and in the dialogue and coaching other designers, and sharing my thoughts versus just making the things myself. And right. I think like that's a lot of where I want Studio Guapo to exist this year, is it not just feel like it's this me train, just me, you know, but like, how do I open this up, let more people in, and host more people and tell more stories, and, you know, sort of widen, build more of an ecosystem, like you said. Yeah.
Right. I don't know, when you you just said that, I thought about Michael Jordan. Yeah, I thought about Michael Jordan so in the 80s, he was doing a lot of things by himself. He was winning a lot of individual accolades, loads of scoring titles. But he wasn't winning. He wasn't necessarily winning on the team front, or he wasn't focused on more of the team. Mm-hmm. So then, as he got to the 90s, he started to figure out how can I get more people involved in how I do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, totally. I guess it's like the future that I want and the future that I can make. I think there's plenty of people that have the time and space and resources to approach this new design landscape as an artist that
Right.
makes their that spends their time in the studio, makes their pieces, and shares them in that kind of traditional format.
Right.
And I think that's sick. And I know people who do it, and like friends that do it, and I think that that's like dope. And it's just like for me personally, kind of realizing, especially as like a father, that's not my path at this moment. But like my path is going to look a little bit different, but in a positive way, in a great way. Yeah, it's just different. And I'm not saying I have all the answers either.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
everybody is one foot in front of the other and figuring things out as I go along.
Yeah.
And just enjoying the ride.
Yeah. When you just said you don't have the answers, you know what just came into my mind?
What?
When Kanye told Sway, you
don't have the answers.
You don't have the answers.
I don't have the answers, man. Let me tell you.
Oh.
I'm not. I'm definitely not like that person. Like I don't have everything figured out, you know, and I have a lot of things figured out,
Yeah.
But I think what's cool about life is that like you can decide where it goes, and you can slow it down and pivot and anticipate where you want things to be,
Absolutely.
I mean, even Virgil said something before about how like don't be afraid to switch the name of like your brand or change things, don't feel like you're completely locked in, like you're in charge. You know what I mean? Like when, and Virgil's went from Pyrex to Off-White, which was like a very different brand, I'm not saying I'm switching my brand name, but it's like,
you're open to reinventing
kind of realizing
yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's just where I'm at right now. I'm kind of taking some time to kind of just like building my brand and deciding, what avenues I want to explore, what services I can offer, and what's the best path forward for me.
Absolutely. But I think that's why I love sports racing, like sports car racing, like F1, for example, because I'm really fascinated by the pit stops. So when a driver comes off the track, he goes to the pit stop. He has his team that come and support him. They make adjustments to the wheels, to the car, and I feel like that can be related to real life as well. Sometimes you may have to take a step back, experience your own pit stop, make a few adjustments before you go back on track, on your track of the race that you're running.
Facts. Another thing I think about too is like Ye said in an interview once, can't remember which one, but that like the game is kind of like double dutch, and it's sort of like you're kind of like outside of it, waiting for that moment to jump in, and then you jump in, you go hard, you do your thing for as long as you can without tripping, and then you hop out.
Yeah.
And kind of wait for your turn, wait to go get back in when the vibe's right, and that's something I think about all the time. And I feel
There's
like I'm
another.
somewhere
Oh yeah,
in that space, you know, like I'm in that
yeah.
in between space. Like I was in the double dutch. I did my thing. I hopped out, and now I'm kind of like waiting for that moment to like hop back in, you
Hop
know?
back in. Yeah, but that's why I
Yeah.
love. For example, like when 808 and Heartbreaks came out, and it got backlash from like a lot of people, and it's something Kanye said in an interview where he said during that time he said with every album he puts out he wants to um, approach it like he's a new artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Exactly.
means
Exactly. The different
he's open to
eras.
criticism every time he puts out a new album because he's exploring, he's moving away from what he did previously, and he's exploring something else. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some people may not get it in that moment; they may get it later on, but he knows he's taking them on a journey. So that's all that matters.
Totally. 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 Big inspiration there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love. That's why I love the albums where artists go left to go forward. Like I love it. I loved when Drake put out "Honestly Nevermind" because that's not what people wanted really, but he went left to
Yeah.
go forward.
That was my. I mean, I I'm not a big Drake fan like these days, but I will say, honestly, Nevermind was the first Drake album since if you're reading this
If you're reading
that I
this,
felt was like interesting. Because everything else to me just felt like uh, just like money making decisions, like
yeah,
pop, you know, just
yeah,
like pop star, just like the creativity wasn't leading. It feels to me like it's like the numbers were kind of like the most important thing,
yeah,
and the decisions and like his sound and decisions and like his trajectory, which is fine, you know. But it made me less interested as a fan. But when I think if you're honestly Nevermind was like, oh, like finally we can just get something a little raw, a little unfinished, like a
yeah.
little like you're not afraid if it's
You're not
not the
meeting
most
everyone's
perfect
needs.
pop hit. You're not trying to make everybody happy,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and like just niche, you know. On some house vibes. It was cool.
Yeah.
That was a great album.
Yeah. I would say like "Love Below" is another one where I feel like Andre went left to go forward, even though he didn't put out another album after that.
Mm-hmm.
um, well, he didn't put out like a solo album after that. And Yeezus as well. I feel like Yeezus was another one. Kanye went left to go forward. He wasn't necessarily appreciated at the time, but I think over time now people understand why he made that album at that time and how that became like a soundtrack for what he was going through fashion wise
Yeah,
as well.
and you know the soundtrack for a generation. He was
Right.
burning down the old and starting something new. You know, um, that album woke me up out of life. You know,
How did he
I
wake
feel
you up?
like
How did he wake you up?
I just didn't know. It's almost like at the time and the way culture was at the time, it's like almost like you didn't know that that was even possible. Like I didn't
Right.
even know it was possible for like an artist that big to just drop something so raw. Like the only time
Yeah.
I'd heard like music like that was like in art school, going to like underground basement shows in like Baltimore or like Boston, you know, like young kids in art school that are just like twisting the knobs, making crazy like experimental noise music, in their college dorm rooms and performing in local basement shows, and to take that sound and like flip it into and then the fashion element and the stage shows, and then how the full just production into something so raw. And I was like, I'm not an artist. Like I'm not living my true artist self. Like what? I just felt like it completely cracked my brain open, and I almost like as if I was listening. It reminded me of like when I was a teenager and I heard Radiohead for the first time.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard anything like Radiohead, and it was like that. Like I felt like I was listening to music for the first time, like experiencing art for the first time, and just completely cut through everything I thought was true and everything I thought that like the world works this way, like art works this way, design works this way. I feel like that album just like chopped it in half and was like, it can be anything you want it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And set me on a path. And I think that's true for so many people, you know? And I think that's so powerful. And I think that, I love comparing music to design, because I think that like design needs to think more like music. I often say that music, you're allowed to have subgenres, and you can have artists that play, you know, like a Yo-Yo Ma or something that's like classical, highly renowned musical genius on like a really high music level. But you can also have something like Blink-182 that sells out stadiums and simple 4 or 5 chord progressions, simple melodies, and they're just, you know, pop punk, and they just do it the best. And they just love living in their pocket. Yeah. And same thing, you can have, you know, really simple like hip hop that has a huge following, and it's just bars and beats, like you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's raw, and that's it, and that's a whole culture just there. And I think design is almost always so focused on like using the highest end materials, the most advanced technology, achieving this like these really high goals, where like we live in this time where like we can just love plywood furniture, and you could just live in that pocket and just like that can just be your thing, or you can just really love like this specific corner of design, and we should be able to like celebrate that. So often, like, you know, still in design, like you put out like a plywood chair, for instance, and that's, let's say that's posted on High Snobiety or posted on Hypebeast, and the comments are just like, this doesn't look comfortable. Why not use this material? Why not use this and do this and do this? And it's like, not everyone's trying to make like the most advanced, you know, perfect chair on like this highest quality level. Like, you know, you can also just like love the subgenre of like simple DIY plywood furniture, or just love the subgenre of, you know, simple 3D printed lamp. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't always have to go straight into ceramics or straight into upholstery or whatever the next step is or the next level is. And I think the more that there are spaces that just can just celebrate and appreciate these like subgenres of design, like, you know, we're going to have like a much more enjoyable ecosystem.
Right.
And I think about it in music in that way too, as like a music artist, being able to package your work into albums, into mixtapes, and present those. And then there's like those, and then you market it, and then you tour those things. And, a lot of times I've even thought about my Guapo rockers being like a single,
Yeah.
and I've just like, you don't, like, even Tyler's talked about that before. Like, he's like, I put out an album like 13 months ago and I'm still promoting that album. Like, I'm
Oh yeah, you
still
did say that.
in that album mode of promoting it, touring it, posting it. Like, we're still here. And so
Like
much
that,
of it was
like that era. We're still in that era. It's not done yet. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
And
Oh, that's
similar,
why. Yeah. Oh, sorry, but that's why I love. That's why I was so interested in the Thriller album, right? Like Thriller got so big that my MJ didn't put out another album. He waited until the hype died down, and then he started working on Bad. So he let the era kind of organically die out. He didn't disrupt the Thriller era.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of similar for me. It's like I've had this subgenre and this mixtape of this sound with like a good single that I've been just like touring with and telling that story and that story. And now we've arrived at a different landscape where there's that subgenre is more appreciated and more understood and more accepted, and like there's more artists in that lane, and there's more of and so now it's like I'm not fighting for that to exist. It exists, now we've arrived, we're just here now. And so it's like, all right, what am I going to make now into this new landscape? And that's my challenge now as like a designer and as an artist, and the way I want to approach it. And, that takes time.
Yeah, definitely. So it seems like you appreciate reflection, like taking time, reflecting, having self-awareness, being aware of, okay, I've done this, I appreciate this. What's next? But it seems like you like to take your time as well, like not rush into the next thing.
Yeah, I enjoy it as something I desire, but also out of necessity.
Right.
With my lifestyle difference, being an artist, with 2 kids is very different than being an artist. You're like
no kids,
single and 26.
Yeah.
You make different decisions. So yeah,
Yeah.
And that changes my perspective too. I mean, I think that's also probably why I'm so interested in education and speaking to young people and things like that right now, and workshops, is because thinking about the future, thinking about my kids' future, like where's that going to go versus so yeah, that all just shapes it's going to shape my work.
Yeah, definitely. You said something about, you was talking before about music and furniture, and what came into my head was the Life of Pablo rollout, where Kanye was releasing different versions of the album and editing the album as he went along. And that made me think of, like, there was backlash from music fans, because music fans want the final version. They only want the final version. They don't want different versions leading up to whatever the final version is, right? But
I would say that's for rap fans and for pop fans, that's true. But in a lot of subgenres, like, punk music, hardcore music, a lot of rock genres, having demo tapes, having like the demo tapes of your favorite band and stuff like that is is sick. Like people want the most raw stuff. Like I was just reminded of that recently when my wife has a little cousin. He's like 14, skateboards, he's in LA. He loves, you know, SoundCloud rap and hardcore rock and just like, you know, just like a coolest kid in the world. And I mean it with love, but you know, just like a rowdy little punk kid, like skater.
Yeah.
And we were sharing rock, we were sharing music, and I sent him some music and he was like, nah, this is too polished. Like it's produced too well. I can't listen to music that's produced this well.
Yeah.
And I've gotten so used to just like listening, I almost crave highly produced music, right? But he wants that raw, like he wants stuff that sounds like you recorded it in your bedroom. And that's what was so cool. I think Kanye's so good about that is like, even if like the mainstream is going to reject something, it's almost like he knows, but the kids are going to love holding on to these unfinished singles and these raw.
He has so many unreleased songs.
Exactly.
And people listen to like they've come out.
Playboy Cardi the same way, you know, is a master of that, of taking control of like, you can have this narrative of like your released music, but there's also an underlying underground narrative of all the things you didn't finish and put out, and like there's like an undercurrent there. Yeah.
It's almost like the unreleased music is better that it's unreleased. Don't release it because that creates that mystique around it.
Exactly.
I get to enjoy. I get to picture in my mind what I think it could be, but I can still enjoy what it is.
And it can inspire me to make my thing, you know, like maybe I don't want to make music inspired by the life of Pablo. Maybe I want to make music inspired by the unfinished, unreleased tracks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it creates a whole other like undercurrent. I don't know how else to describe it of influence and being a master of that too.
But
I love, you know, unfinished, raw ideas, even in design.
Yeah, exactly. So could there be the same thing for design for furniture, like that unreleased piece that isn't, you know, could it be the equivalent of that?
I mean, you know, back to like the music metaphor, as far as furniture goes, like I'm playing punk rock, you know, I'm playing lo-fi hip hop, you know, it's simple. We got one MPC beat machine in the studio. You know what I mean? Like we don't have everything. We have one machine. We do this one thing, but like that's all you need to have Wu-Tang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have one drummer, one guitarist, one bass player. That can get you really amazing like punk music, and with the energy you bring, and that's very, you know, similar to like the type of design I've been interested in. The Guapo rocker itself, you know, plywood, bolts, it is unfinished, and it's unfinished both because of resources and necessity, but because of a love of that raw underground. And I think that's why it brings so many people in, is because people can imagine like what this chair can be, what it can become, and allowing yourself and what you're making to live in that for a period of time is something that you don't often see in design. You see the very finished, pristine version of something. And so to me, you know, the Guapo rocker is like a demo. It's you know, it is like a really simple demo track that you know projects a ton of potential but still lives in that unfinished, raw space where it's not this highly produced thing.
Yeah.
And, we see the same thing in streetwear where, people start brands and they're just screen printing things in their garage, but like are able to build a community and build a culture and build a scene, and they can move into cut and sew later,
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. I feel like I remember you said something about design. Wait, it was basically your hope for design to have like a underground scene at scale. I remember you said something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was around December time. But I really feel like that's like an interesting way of looking at things, because you can see that in other areas. You can see that in streetwear, where there's so many different things being made on the ground level, and it's raw, and they have their own support networks that embrace different things that they're creating as well. You have music, up and coming music artists that have like small shows where they have people coming to it, and it's raw. But I think what you were saying was, when it comes to design, that ground level interaction at scale isn't there yet.
Yeah, there's not many spaces for it. And that's what I want Studio Guapo to be, and and even Pink Essay to be. That's what Pink Essay is. Is cultivating those spaces. Even doing things like there was this young person I connected with on the internet last year, and she was really inspiring. Her Instagram is, let me not butcher it. Let me make sure I shout her out correctly. I have to throw the handle out. Hold up. Sorry for the delay here.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Okay, see the lieutenant. Clearly really intelligent. And I was like, let's do a talk at my studio.
Okay.
I'm going to have this event. We should just like talk in front of people. And I was like, and no pressure. Like, this doesn't have to be something really crazy big. It's just, and I remember she got there early. I was having an open studio event. We were supposed to do it at 2:00. Nobody was there at 2:00. And people didn't start rolling into the studio till like 4:30. Then that's when we had like 20 people in the studio. And I'm like, all right, like, let's just sit and like talk for a few minutes. And we did. And just that, like, you have to practice doing that. And that was an experience both for me and for her. But like, there aren't like rehearsal spaces to practice talking about design in front of people. So often it's like, it's not until someone invites you to be on a podcast or someone invites you to speak in front of a class. And that might not happen until you get to a certain point, right?
Yeah.
But, what I was trying to give to her, and of course give to myself, like the value, I don't want to sound like I was just bringing value to her. Like, she was bringing me value as well. But like,
Matt, your camera has froze a little bit.
Is it better now?
No, it still froze.
All right. How do you want to handle it?
We can go on. We can go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was I? But yeah, that was something we talked about. Sort of after we did a little quick talk. We talked for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. but I was telling people it's like there are no arenas to practice, no gyms to practice for like the arena of like speaking on design.
Yeah.
It's like not unless if you're not in school, if you're not already in a company or something, or like already kind of establishing yourself where you get invited to places, like where do you practice that?
Yeah.
Where do you get to sit and like talk in front of people? And that's what I think design needs. We need more spaces where people are doing that, and not just in a way that's like really, oh, we have this really special guest speaker that's going to talk. Like, let's just see what like the recent graduates are on, and like, let's see what, people who are coming at it from other angles, and give them those platforms and give them spaces. And it doesn't even have to be some giant thing, but we gain so much from that dialogue and that space. And that's a lot of what goes down at like my open studios. And what I think that people really love to come around for is just like having like a space where you can discuss design and discuss art and culture amongst like other people who care. Because like where else do we get to do that?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I know where your chair had an event in London. Was it last summer?
Mm-hmm. I think like the end of last summer.
I didn't get to. I missed the event, but it looks really good. It looks really, really cool.
Was it a Wear Your Chair event, but it was a Pink Essay show?
Oh, it was a Pink. Okay, yeah, it was a Pink Essay. Yeah.
I don't think it was titled Wear Your Chair, but yeah, David put that show on. I wasn't very involved in that, and he was working with this girl Holly, and her Instagram is Rolu Studio.
Okay.
Wait, let me make sure. I want to make sure I'm shouting everybody out correctly. One moment. Anyways, shout out Holly. Yeah, I wasn't super involved in the London show. That was like around the time I had just had my baby, and so I was a little checked out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully there's more.
Definitely, Pink Essay is doing a show in Mexico City, in the next couple weeks that David is working on. David is the founder of Pink Essay. He lives in Mexico City.
Okay.
The next thing for that is there's a Design Heads magazine print issue that is going to be dropping probably in March, I think.
Okay.
It could, magazines always get pushed back, but I think like shooting for late March. I just did the cover interview with a really special cover star that we're excited about. But it'll be the first print issue of Design Heads. Design Heads is our Substack. I don't know if you follow it.
Yeah, I've read a few articles. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a lot of where the Pink Essay energy is going, is into a little more of like editorial media through the Design Heads channel.
Okay.
And David's kind of built out a bit of an editorial team that are focused on that. And that's a lot of where the Pink Essay energy is going. And of course, I think that there'll probably be, always more shows to come that are going to be done, collaboratively with partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a workshop you did that I came across called Design is Sport.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Because I know you spoke earlier about education being important and being able to share knowledge with others and help with other people's development. So how did this come about?
That came about, someone from Nike, just Blair Cooper, reached out to me on Instagram, and she was putting together some New York-based artists and designers that wanted to do work, to sort of host some workshops at a Nike store, and was like, hey, have you ever done a workshop before? Do you want to send me a pitch for a workshop? I'm going to highlight 5 artists. And that was while I have done some workshops in the past, I'd never done one for Guapo, and one that like I was running myself.
Okay.
And came up with myself. So that was my first experience with that. And Design is Sport was about connecting design to the idea of sport. And similar to what we were just discussing about arenas and music is,
yeah,
you know, you don't have just NBA basketball players. Like, tons of people all over the world love basketball, and there are basketball courts in most neighborhoods, even if it is just a basket screwed to a wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There are just spaces where you can play and you can practice, and it's really normal. And in design, there's not a lot of those spaces. Sorry, I have kind of like a stuffed nose. I feel like I'm going to sound crazy on this podcast.
Don't worry about it. Remember what you said about the rawness, appreciating the rawness. So
I should have called that out in the beginning.
We're gonna appreciate the rawness. We're gonna embrace
it. Yo, what was I gonna say?
We're gonna be like your did you say your wife's, was it her nephew?
Her cousin.
Her cousin. We're gonna be like your wife's cousin.
Yeah, no. I'll shout out. That's my guy. Anyways, so I was trying to draw that parallel even there, and kind of say like design is sport. It's just like a sport, and you can practice it at home, and you can play it on your own terms, like at home. And I think design is really intimidating. It would be, you know, where people think you can only kind of practice design in this really specific spaces, like architecture school or like an architecture firm or a design museum. But it's like design can be practiced anywhere. It can be practiced in your garage, it can be practiced at your home and your desk. And I was just trying to lower everything. And we did a very simple class where we had like Nike branded, like cardboard and cardstock and a lot of other materials. And I challenged our students to come up with their own chair design. And then we would model it, make a miniature model scale of that design, and then present it to the class. And it was pretty quick in the course of like 2.5 hours. So that was that class.
Yeah. So what did you learn from the participants, from the people that were part of the workshop?
Just at how much fun it could be, you know? And I think like there was particularly one group of students. I did the class like 4 times, I think. Did 4 different classes, maybe 5 over the course of a weekend. But there was one class specifically where like some kid had showed up and he brought like 4 or 5 of his friends, and they were all from like uptown, like New York, like young, like probably between like 19 and like 22, not in school. And like his friends didn't think that they were going to be able to join the class, but we like let them join. And they were just like so excited in like a way that made me really excited. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, what? Like, we can be in this class? Like, yo, like, you know what I mean? Just like palatable excitement. And you know, like when you're with your group of friends, especially at like that age, and your energy's just all bouncing off of each other.
Yeah.
So like even as a group, you're just more excited than you would probably be individually.
Yeah.
And they just brought like such amazing energy. And they were just like making fun of each other the whole time, and like but in a friendly way. And then they just made like cool random chair designs. And one person even in that group, like he made like a bus stop bench. So he was thinking about community, unprompted, was just thinking about like where he came from. And just, that was like one of my favorite classes, just because it felt so, just like outsiders from design, having a space, again, just like a space to like to express themselves and think about furniture for the first time and think about design. And they had all like, of course they had thought about music before, they had thought making clothes before, but none of them were necessarily kids that were coming from a space where they had thought about making a chair before. And I think that they had left with a lot of value, and they gave me a lot of value. That was the most exciting. Moments like that are the most exciting.
I feel like design and sports, they're so interconnected in so many different ways. I feel like I've appreciated design growing up watching like football. I appreciated design in different ways through watching football, paying attention to just whether it was the jerseys or the boots, or whenever a team rebranded their logos, stuff like that. I appreciated the design. It made me connect more with the team as well, or the player that was connected to it.
Definitely.
Let's touch up on the wear your chair concept. I thought that was really interesting when I discovered it. But can you maybe give it from your perspective, how you see it?
Yeah, so Wear Your Chair started, before I was a part of Pink SA. And I was first having these first ideas about intersecting design with streetwear culture and stuff like that. One of the first things I did was Google search like furniture design, streetwear, enter what comes up, right? Yeah. And whatever articles exist that have already kind of sort of talked about it, I went and I read them, and I looked at them, and there was a very few at the time in like 2020. But there was some information about like some certain drops that had happened, seeing like a Supreme t-shirt that had a Wassily chair on it that came out in like 2017 or something, and different things like that, and I was starting to kind of connect those dots. And as I did that, I was like, oh wow, like there is a little bit of a history here, like to weave through and be inspired by, but like it's not collected. So my irresponsible ass just started buying all the t-shirts that I was like researching about. I was like, oh wait, there was a Supreme t-shirt, let me buy this one, and let me buy this one, and like, oh, there was a hidden t-shirt, let me buy that. And I started just buying t-shirts with chairs on them and got like really into it, and
crazy.
Started collecting them and follow, checking them out on eBay and trying to figure out like all of them. And there was like a Uniqlo like Eames collab in like 2016 that was in Japan, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And So I started just trying to like compile it. And that was, you know, in turn inspiring me. This is the same time I'm thinking about my own brand and like wanting to make a chair, wanting to make a shirt with the chair on it and just all of that. So that's where it started. And then I did one of the first events I had in my studio kind of after the pandemic, when things started to open up a bit, was I was selling those t-shirts. And I had collected some other things, some design books and stuff. And I hadn't designed my chair yet, but it was a way to intersect and meet people that were interested in that subject, even before I had something to share of my own.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of the reason also why I think I got really into it, was like, all right, if you love streetwear and you love design, here's a space where we can like connect, right?
Absolutely.
And Pink Essay, that's like how I met David, was that he did a little highlight. I think we did an Instagram live where I showed off the t-shirts and talked about it one time. And that's kind of started our friendship. And fast forward, I've sold a lot of the t-shirts that I had past the ones I wore, that I still own and wear.
Yeah.
And of course, collecting t-shirts from friends who are designers that made t-shirts. And and then after I joined Pink Essay, I just had the idea at one point with David. I was just like, we should turn that idea, expand on that and wear your chair and like open that up for other people to explore in other ways. You know, there's a lot of intersections between furniture and fashion.
Yeah.
And that could be a whole show. The first thing we did was we decided to make our own t-shirt. So we did an open call for furniture designers to submit their chairs to be on a t-shirt. And we were going to pick, I think it might have been like 12 chairs or something at the time.
Okay.
15 chairs. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
But we picked chairs to be on a t-shirt. And so we kind of had contemporary designers encapsulated on a t-shirt. And that was like the show, like the t-shirt as a gallery kind of.
Yeah.
And then we decided to also have a real show. Then we're like, but let's also do a show where we just do an open call in New York because, you know, it's local. The t-shirt was like international, but the show was like anybody could submit we did invitation based on like our network, but invited people to showcase designs of chairs that intersected the two. And then, you know, that could be in any form. So some people had jewelry of like a little miniature chair to like an actual chair or a table that intersected fashion in some way, or a t-shirt. You know, there was this one designers were there in a different city, so they just mailed us some of their t-shirts to sell that had their chairs on them. So we had racks of t-shirts, and you know, it just was just like a space to just like celebrate that connection.
Yeah.
And
like a melting pot.
Exactly. And really well received, really exciting show. And I think we've just needed a little space before we do another one, but there'll definitely be another Wear Your Chair show. I think that was like a really fun one.
Yeah. And the name is great as well.
Yeah, it gets to the point.
It's straight. It gets to the point. Straight. It gets to it straight. Tizo Touchdown visited your studio, or you've known Tizo Touchdown for a while, right?
No, he did visit my studio. I don't know him super personally, but
okay,
we have a mutual friend.
Okay.
what's funny is, but I did kind of manifest it. So like in 2019, I think, me and a good friend of mine who lived in New York, who was from Houston, Texas. I'm from Dallas, Texas. We were starting to collaborate on a project, and he's a fashion designer. And I had these collages I had made, and he wanted to use some of my collage work to create a print for his fashion line. And as we were getting closer to developing that project, I had been a fan of Tizo Touchdown. I'd seen like his viral video where he's sampling the Panic at the Disco song. 100 Drums is the name of that track. And, you know, I'd gone deeper into his music, and I was just really into this dude. And I knew that he was in Houston, and I was like, this dude's the future. Mm-hmm. So I told my friend who was from Houston that I was collaborating with, I was like, bro, like, I really think this dude's going to blow up one day, and we should photograph our collab. We should go to Houston and photograph him in our clothes. And he was like, who's this dude? And we, so I started to show him this guy, and he's from Houston. So he goes to his Instagram profile and starts looking. He's like, oh shit, we got mutual friends. Like, wait, This dude's from Beaumont? He was like, he's from Beaumont? My grandpa's from Beaumont. He's like, oh man, nah, like this is like easy. So he ended up DMing Tizo. And it's funny because it was like right there in my apartment. Like I had just handed him the phone, and he's like, oh shit, let me DM him right now. I was like, bro, chill. This is my favorite artist. Like, leave him, you know. And he started DMing him, and they had like mutual friends, and like I said, his grandfather lived in Beaumont, so they just like connected. And then the pandemic happened, and our project got a little delayed. My friend ended up moving back home to Houston, and we ended up, after things settled a little bit, like finishing that project. And when he moved back to Houston, I think he started connecting with Tizo in person and building a friendship and stuff there. He did end up photographing him in our project, but like I never met Tizo. You know, I was out here in New York, and he was down in Houston. So he started kind of getting in with him and his friends kind of early on. And of course, Tizo slowly rising through this whole time.
Yeah.
So in 2021, Tizo and my friend and that same mutual friend happened to be in New York at the same time. And so he brought him to my studio, and he was like, you know, this is the guy who first introduced me to like your music. And yeah, Tizo pulled up, and it was just me, him, and Tizo. And Tizo would, you know, no nails, no, just like kind of normal guy.
Yeah.
Tizo got to just sit down, show him my work, talk about his story, talk about Texas, talk about art and design. And it was just like the coolest, chillest experience, you know, most humble person. It was just like no ego. It felt like just talking to you, talking to like no different than like us just vibing on design and vibing on art. Like it did, you know, there was no hierarchy. Yeah. We were just all chilling, and it was super sick. And, you know, I took some photos of him with some of my work, and it was a great meeting.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna edit those photos into this.
Oh yeah. All right. And then what happened? And then, you know, just that my friend and Tizo's relationship has also just continued to build. Like they've become pretty close. And yeah, I guess when is your podcast coming out?
I'm gonna try and turn it around probably by like tomorrow.
Oh wow, super fast.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to reveal, but let's just say that there was a recent full circle moment where I got to talk to Tizo again.
Nice.
Just recently, like last week, reconnected, and
this is where he's at a different stage musically and career-wise.
Yep. And that happened just kind of through chance, through other avenues and a connection, and that's going to drop soon. I don't want to reveal too much in respect to the platform it's going to be dropped on. But I did get to talk to Tizo. Like an interview, yeah.
Like an interview, okay.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, I recently got to talk to Tizo again, and there'll be more about that, coming out soon, and that'll be a cool full circle.
Nice. I look forward to that. He had some of my favorite features of last year. So,
oh yeah.
His song with Drake, Amen. He killed that. Killed that. Then he had the song with Don Toliver, Luckily I'm Having.
Oh, that throwback R&B vibes.
Throwback, like New Jack Swing, Aaron Hall kind of vibe. Yeah. And then I saw Don Toliver in October, and he performed that, and it was crazy.
I love it. I love old R&B too. So, I love the vibes he's bringing to the game.
I love like he's wearing like the how do you describe it? Like the American football attire.
Yeah. The shoulder pads.
I love that.
Yeah. No, it's sick.
And it connects with his name, right? Touchdown.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's all connected. But he just seems so diverse. Like he can jump on a song and sing, but then he can rap as well.
He can spit, bro.
Yeah.
You listen to some old Tizo when he was just
I need
rapping.
to listen to old Tizo.
Bro, when he's just rapping, the flow is crazy, and like my man can rap. I look forward to when he displays those skills on a large platform, like a large song.
Yeah.
Because my man can rap. But I love what he's doing and what he's bringing, and he's a very grounded, mature individual, and he's also like really free, creatively free in a way that's just really inspiring. Especially, I think for like a long time, the industry has been like feeding us toxic 17-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
That was just like the menu. Like they're just like, oh, let's find some like 17-year-old kid who's doing a bunch of really toxic music and give them $3 million.
Yeah.
And like tell them to make more of it. Like, you know what I mean?
Emo rap.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and for better or for worse, there's a lot of it I love, but I think that like what's cool and different about Tizo is that I also just respect is just that there's just like a sense of like responsibility and a moral compass that's present in like the way that he's approaching the industry and the game, and like that I just have a lot of respect for, while also still being completely youth centered.
Yeah.
And I think that just does a lot for the music industry, because I think that like it tells the music industry, oh, we don't just have to put our dollars behind toxic artists, like we can also put dollars behind people that are doing very positive messages and very positive like music, and this still works, like, and it's still good. It's great music. It's good. Like, it's undeniably great. So it's going to do well. And, I think that's going to open the doors for a lot of young people, and they don't have to think like, oh, to blow up, I just gotta be on some grimy shit
for shock value, just to get attention.
So no, he's dope.
Yeah. Who are your top 3 music artists right now?
Right now, I mean, if it isn't completely clear from this podcast, like, as controversial as it may be, like, Kanye's been a deep influence for me, like, my whole creative life.
Yeah.
And, through ups and downs, and there's been, there's a lot to unpack there, but I couldn't pretend that that's not true.
Yeah.
That, I haven't been deeply influenced by his music.
Me too, facts.
And I think that's just facts.
Yeah.
And I'm a really big fan of, I've been listening to a lot of music that I was into in high school.
Okay.
Lately, kind of revisiting things. Top 3 though, I would say,
all you can do.
One of my favorite bands is this band called At the Drive-In.
Okay.
That's really meaningful to me. They're from Texas. And then I really love I mean, there's just so many, and there's so many like obvious ones. Like, I'm a big Tyler, the Creator fan.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Tizo Touchdown fan. I like a lot of it's hard for me to give you a top 3.
Yeah.
Like a defining
I should have just
3.
said I should have just said who are you listening to right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. What
I mean, I've been listening to Donda since Donda came out. Not gonna hold you.
You have a favorite song from Donda?
Maybe Come to Life.
Come to Life. I feel like Come to Life is like the evolution of Runaway.
Mm-hmm. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's I've really appreciated, a lot of the like spiritual joints from Ye and kind of that are inspiring in that way.
Yeah.
In the kind of Jesus is King, Donda area.
Songs like that.
Yeah.
Pure Souls.
Pure Souls. 24.
Yeah.
I've been wanting like a lot of like high vibrational, spirit lifting music in my life,
Yeah.
And then of course, I love Mos Def.
Yeah.
And I love listening to like old like hip hop and R&B that I was into when I was younger. I'm a big fan of The Dream.
Oh, I love The Dream is one of the greatest songwriters of the 21st century.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan of The Dream, so I go back and listen to like Love Hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like the Love trilogy, like often. Because that was, I think artistically like really great.
Yeah.
Which, then that feeds into like my love for Tizo Touchdown and some of the that music, you know, we talked about before.
Yeah.
I really love Call Me If You Get Lost.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
With the DJ drama, kind of the
Oh
throwback
yeah.
energy.
That reminded me of on Damn, Kendrick Damn.
Oh yeah.
It had a similar like DJ artist, like like a DJ artist connection throughout. Yeah.
I didn't listen to Damn that deeply.
Oh, okay.
Should I? Should I go back and revisit it?
Oh yeah, go listen to it. Yeah, go listen to it and look and watch the music videos.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
A lot of love and respect for Kendrick, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I love. I mean, there's so much I love. I mean, I'm a big hip hop fan.
Yeah.
And you know, I spend a lot of time listening to Slum Village is like something I think I come back to all the time, like is on a lot of my playlists. Kind of that whole like neo soul moment in like the early 2000s.
Like Common.
Yeah.
People like that. Yeah. Talib.
Of course. Yeah, Talib Kweli. The group called Little Brother that I was really into.
Yeah.
High Tech.
Yeah.
And then you know, a lot of that is just, you know, like playlists that I just like run it on in the background of things like that. And then I love Nerd, NERD.
I love NERD.
Yeah, like,
love NERD. The Provider video that changed my whole perspective, bro, when it came up.
Play Provider at my funeral. Like,
yeah, I love the part where it goes to you know, the part where Pharrell's like, someday this will be over. We're gonna raise a family, get a job, and I'll be a voter. But if I die, oh no. That part. Love that part.
Oh, this is so good.
Love that part, man.
So good. Yeah, and again, you know, I think what I love about NERD was that genre bending.
Oh, like, yeah.
When that came out, it was like rock and rap was like tacky. You know, like nobody was into it.
Yeah.
Like Linkin Park and like there was like kind of a tackiness.
Yeah.
When you
wasn't organic.
Rock and rap. Like people weren't, it was kind of sloppy when people would do it, and you know, and I think like NERD was just so ahead of its time.
Definitely.
In the way that they were able to fuse, you know, genres in such clever and like ways it just worked, you know?
Yeah.
And Pharrell was just like such a dynamic artist to be able to represent that and still be like the coolest guy on the planet, you know?
Yeah. He embodied everything. And what was great about that time is he could be in NERD and making rock-driven music, rock-driven rap music, but then he was also producing for like R&B artists and like
Justin Timberlake
hip-hop artists and pop artists as well. So it was like he could. I feel like NERD was his space to just like express himself on like a raw level. But then the Neptunes were producing like the biggest songs on the radio at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was the crazy thing about it.
Exactly. And having those different avenues for expression, I think, is key.
Yeah. I was gonna say, with a few of the artists you mentioned, right? What all-time furniture piece would they embody the most? Like, which furniture piece could you put next to a particular artist?
Oh, you should have given me that question ahead of time. That's such a good question.
You know what? It's good because now you've delved into it. So now
that's such a good and important question. I want to give like the best answer possible, and now I'm on the spot.
So you can do it. You can do it based on like, you know, the ideas or like the style, the themes that embody that the furniture embodies and that the artist also embodies.
Yeah, you know, I think I mean, Pharrell, you know, has made furniture before, and specifically like kind of his Eames shell top with like the tank legs, and it's like a bright color in like lucite plastic.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that embodies Pharrell like really
absolutely.
well.
Yeah,
you know, it's so him. It's like the classic kind of Eames shell. There's like a nod to like classicism.
Yeah.
With the pop of color.
Yeah.
The bold statement of like the tank.
Yeah.
Legs. There's something there that it's hard to associate him with anything else because that's just so like him.
Yeah.
With Ye, I think you really gotta go into the future. You know, I see him in something like a monoblock chair that's like made from like all one material.
Okay.
That can be mass produced at scale. That's like for the people and but still, you know, really high level design. You know, I think that there are probably some examples that are slipping me, but you know, something space age. You know, it's got to be from Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you know, when the Jedi Council is in Star Wars is like all sitting on those crazy chairs.
Yeah.
It's like one of those chairs, probably.
You know what's funny? When pictures came out of his studio in, I think he was in Dubai, or he was in that somewhere in that region. People were making comparisons with Star Wars.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
His studio had a Star Wars.
He was in a resort in like Saudi Arabia or something.
Yeah. Tizo?
Tizo? I feel like Tizo is on some raw DIY vibes still right now.
Yeah.
Like
maybe yours.
Maybe the Guapo rocker.
Yeah, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I really do see it. It's like it's gotta be something that you could, like, a kid could still make in their garage.
Yeah.
Or would inspire them to, but it's still on some like nod to the future.
Yeah. And I guess that's what Tizo represents. He gives off the vibe that, look, you can do what I do. You can be open and express yourself the way I do it. But I'm also at the same time I'm moving forward and I'm taking things in the direction that I want to take them.
And I feel like with Tyler is such a collector and an appreciator of like classics, you know. He has such a taste level for like the past. I feel like he would just have some like sexy Paulin chair, or some Werner Pantone, but like an off one, you know, like something that's like out of the archives on the side, definitely upholstered, bold color. You know, uh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of, I feel like that's the vision there.
Yeah, definitely. If you had, do you have any advice for like up and coming furniture designers in general, but specifically furniture designers, on like how they can navigate in the early stages?
You know, I the same examples I've been citing, you know, think about garage bands, think about lo-fi hip hop, early stages of like lo-fi hip hop, think about streetwear brands that start from nothing. And it's like you don't need much to start creating like a subculture and a, you know, building a community. Just like make cool things with your friends with what you have. If that's literally you driving around and finding random things in your city and like putting them together and doing it with your friends, and like have a design show at the skate park. You know what I mean? Like on the basketball court of your town.
Yeah.
Like, and document it and share it online. And like those images are really powerful. And I think like there's a lot just like right there that you can do to start building a name for yourself as someone who's interested in design in your community, who wants to celebrate it and be a part of it. And, you know, as time passes, you'll get a bigger network and find more resources and be able to explore other avenues, but just like use what you have, you know?
Yeah.
If your dad's got some wood in the garage, use some wood. If like, you know, if you got to find broken furniture and repair it, just put some sauce on it, you know, and have fun, and just don't take things too seriously, and just whatever you make, just share it online and love it and believe in it, and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Sick. Okay. Yeah, this has been great. This has been inspirational for me.
Same for me too, dude. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, just hearing you kind of open up about your perspective on things and making connections as well with spaces outside of design as well. It's been really interesting to hear how you think about those things.
Thank you, dude. You too. It's a pleasure to talk to somebody and have so many of the same like cultural reference points. So yeah, no, it's a fun one.
Sweet.